There are three movements in marriage. And to illustrate this, we can look again to St. Thomas Aquinas and the example that he gives about a man plowing a field and then planting a seed and then watering it. These don't all happen at the same time. There are a progression that takes place in a particular order. So the first movement of marriage is to ask, is it a legal or licit marriage? And that is defined as a covenant between a man and a woman. Now, in the Old Testament, it was a contract. It was contracted for goods. But our Lord raises it to a sacrament and now makes it a covenant. And so we ask in this, is this covenant between a man and a woman, is it licit? We could say then in the opposite way, between two men, between two women, between a man and a dog, it is illegal. It is illicit. We don't need to go any further. But once we establish that it's licit, then the next step or movement is towards, is it valid? Now the validity has to do with the two persons making vows, the vows of the church, not their own vows, the vows of the church to one another before a witness who is a minister of the Catholic Church. If it is not a minister of the Catholic Church, it is not a valid marriage. That was made clear by both Pope Pius XII and also Pope Leo XIII. It must be witnessed by a valid minister, a minister who has received the authority to do so, whether he be a priest or a deacon, from the bishop who was consecrated by the rite of the church, and then use that right to consecrate or to ordain the priest or the deacon. They are the only ones that can validly receive the vows of these two persons who freely give the vows to one another, and therefore they bind themselves freely into one. The Church also has, throughout the centuries, seen that there are obstacles to this valid marriage. And it gives 14 of them called impediments. We won't go over those right now, but that's something that a priest, when two persons come and they have a right to marriage and they want to be married, we have to look at that. Can you get married? Is there an impediment in the way of your marriage? One simple thing is if you are related by the first degree of blood, first cousins, brother, sister, mother, father, etc. And then the next movement is that of sacramentality, to be united, those two being united as one, now being united to God in the nuptial blessing, which requires that you receive the body and blood of our Lord Jesus Christ. If you receive the body and blood of our Lord Jesus Christ and the nuptial blessing, then that is an unbreakable bond. That is the covenant. You can only receive the body and blood of our Lord Jesus Christ at a true Catholic Mass, offered by a true Catholic priest who was ordained by a true Catholic bishop. And how do you know they're true? Because the ritual, again, a progression, the ritual is used to consecrate the man. And he must be consecrated by a man who that ritual was used to consecrate him. And then he must ordain using the ritual of the church, the approved ritual of the church. And then he must use the Mass, the approved ritual of the Mass, in order for there to be the sacramental grace. All of that is necessary and behind a Catholic marriage, a sacramental marriage. So this idea of clandestine marriages, where two persons will come together and vow themselves to one another without any witness, without a nuptial blessing, and then they'll go live as husband and wife, and they say they do this because there's an emergency, because there are no priests, and there is no Mass. That is the greatest fallacy and heresy out there today. And it's being spread everywhere. Also, the error that the two persons marry one another. This only goes back to like the 20s and 30s as this idea that was floating around. And this was for ecumenism. They were already working towards ecumenism. The two persons make vows. They freely give themselves to one another. They freely unite themselves as one body. But that is not yet the sacrament. It's not finished. In other words, the first part is it licit? Was the ground prepared? Yes. Is it valid? Was the seed planted? Yes, they made their vows before a approved minister of the church. But it's not going to grow if it's not watered. There is the third movement, that of the nuptial blessing and the requirement to receive the true body and blood of our Lord Jesus Christ, and therefore to be united to the church, to the mystical body. So you tell me how that can ever be achieved by not coming to the church and not submitting to the church. It cannot be. So there's many people out there right now who need to have this repaired. They didn't know. They were following the advice of somebody on the internet or some brother somewhere in New York or someplace. I'm here to tell you, do not put yourself in that position or that jeopardy. God is not going to honor it because you're ignorant. You're no longer ignorant if you're watching this video. So please, if this helps you, like and subscribe to this channel. If you do not, this video will not go out. It needs to go out. Also share it. We need people to know what is the truth, and that they live in truth, and that they're united in communion to Jesus Christ and his mystical body, the Holy Catholic Church. It can be done. It can be fixed. We are here. There are others. We will do whatever we can to bring you to God, because that is what we were ordained for. That is what we are consecrated for. God bless you, and keep the faith.